Morning, morning. Yeah, on at a new time. So I'm not sure how many people are going to be joining me, but I've come on at a new time because, well, basically, it suits me to do it at a new time. I don't normally, going into the winter, put it this way, I am extremely susceptible to light, and it's going to start getting dark in the evenings. And I go into semi-hibernation in the winter. So as soon as it starts getting dark in the evening, I literally shut down. I'm great at doing internal stuff. I'm great at planning and sitting here and writing stuff and working stuff out. But actually mustering myself to do something where I've got to talk and throw sentences together is not always the best thing for me. So I'm just going to trial it at new time to see if it goes better. Because actually, if my energy is better, it all works so much better. If we're oh, hi Mandy. Yeah, if we're in flow with our own energy, things work so much better. So yeah, I'm trialing a new time, simply because I'm being entirely selfish. It's my business and it suits me to do it at this time. So morning. So we've come online today anyway to talk about nature spirits and angelic realms, because it's something that I work with when I'm working with clients. It's a huge part of my program, Sacred Feminine Living, which is about opening up other levels of consciousness and other realms to women so they can incorporate those that knowledge, that practice, that being into their daily life. And it improves your relationships, your health, has a massive effect on your business and things like that. So yeah, sorry, I'm trying to move my crystals around. They're all over my desk at the moment. I love them. They're slightly in the way of my notes. So yeah, I'm just going to take a few minutes because I'm not sure who's joining us. But yeah, so nature spirits and angelic reality. Now, it's something I, as a seer of energy, have always been able to see, experience, and communicate with. But I'm very aware that it's not something that is within, sorry, I got hair in my mouth. It's not something that is within everybody's reality, but it's incredibly important. You're missing a huge trick if you're not sort of tuned into these things. So we're just going to talk about a little bit about why a lot of people don't perceive, I don't mean with their eyes, don't perceive this this stuff as being important, really. Now, as I say, angelic beings, nature spirits, sort of the realms of divas are all something that I've always communicated with. Oh, let me tea go cold. Sacrilege. Something that I've always communicated with ever since I was a child. I've always been able to see these things in energy formation, or occasionally personified. Occasionally I would see them as pixies, elves and fairies. Sometimes small, sometimes huge, trolls in the mountains, trolls in the rocks, all sorts of things, water divas, water nymphs, all sorts of things everywhere, dryads in the trees. So I was very used to talking with these things and seeing how they help shape reality. But what I also saw was that most people weren't really conscious of them. I was sort of blundering through life, not realizing that all this sort of wisdom, intuition and knowledge that keeps us grounded in the real world, people were sort of skitting frantically across the top, getting into all sorts of mental and emotional strife, because they're actually really disconnected from a fundamental part of the energies of nature and the universe. So in the end up, I've come on to talk about this and started a business doing more about this stuff, because actually I'm sick to death of people not believing it's real. And I'm also, quite frankly, and I'm going to be brutally honest now, and when I'm going to start doing more of these lives, and particularly my group, I'm not going to hold back on what my experiences and my perception of the truth and things that I do know to be true, but I can only speak from my truth. But I am sick to death of the flaky stuff that's out there in a lot of new age materials. A lot of it is grounded in truth, numerology, angelic beings, astrology. A lot of it is grounded in very real science, physics, the character of numbers, the energy of number, the expression of sacred geometry through number. But it's kind of been watered down. It's kind of got sort of an essence of reality television about how fantastic it is. And but a lot of it has got incredibly flaky. And of course that has its place. It helps people at that level of awareness, But if you pass through that, that naivety, if you like, of it, lifts us away from the real world in unhealthy ways. So a lot of people say, you know, you hear all this stuff or read all this stuff on the internet about, oh, this angelic reality is coming in now, and you just got to sit there and, you know, it'll help ease all these problems and all that kind of stuff. And of course it won't. You are given access to forces and information through information fields, so your mind field extends beyond your head, but you have to act upon it. Now, forces or we're in a numerological portal at the moment that's very difficult, very challenging if you've got a lot of stuff inside you that you haven't dealt with. If you've dealt with it, you'll sail through it fine. But people keep going about, there's a difficult time coming, there's a difficult time coming, there's a difficult time coming. Yeah, there's always a difficult time for me if you're full of your own internal crap, isn't it? You know, so deal with it, and then these things get less difficult for you to go through these periods. But that is what the nature, spirits, and angelic being realm can really help you with. So it's not about being flaky, it's about looking at the real reality, not the reality we are led to believe is real, the sort of real reality underneath that, and incorporating the fact that we're not alone into this, into our daily life. Now, as I say, these angelic realms do exist. They form the part of the rich fabric that is the universe, the world, nature, everything. I mean, strange things happen all the time in the universe. People have precognitive experiences, and people say, oh, that can't be explained as by natural phenomena. The whole universe is natural. Everything in it that it happens is natural. Slips through time, experiences of past life, precognitive experiences, near-death experiences, things moving about your house when you least expect it. They are all natural phenomena. Sometimes they're described as supernatural or whatever, but they are all natural. There is nothing in the universe happening that doesn't happen. It's just that we have such a narrow perception of within our own consciousness of the universe and what is real. But your mind fields extend well beyond your mind. You just got to make that bridge between your subconscious and your conscious mind, and the whole of the realm opens up to you. So angelic and spiritual realms are really good at helping you do that, which is why I love working with them, because they're very forgiving of all our foibles, and they are so patient and have been with me over the years. I mean, honest to God, sometimes must be like they go, Jesus, she's dim. So my work now forms that bridge between mystical and spiritual experience and logic and common sense that you can apply to your everyday life, because there's no good wandering around with waving a scented candle around your room and ringing a bell and all the things I do, but hoping your life is going to become all right as a result of that. It's not. You have to take aligned action, as they say. So fortunately now, there's been a huge shift in consciousness, hasn't there? There's a massive movement of women creating spiritual businesses, aligning their life's purpose to their work, entrepreneurs like myself who've gone, stuff that man-made rubbish out there. I know what I see, I know what I do, I know what I feel, I know I have gifts that can help other people. I don't have to be brilliant, I don't have to be the expert, I just have to be able to help people who aren't perhaps as aware as me, who are just looking for that next step up. And then we all keep moving that next step up to the next mentor, the next level of awareness. That's fine. So I thank God we're in this massive shift now of women who are creating businesses going, you know, I'm spiritual, I love crystals, I love tarot, all of it. I think it's absolutely fantastic there's been this massive explosion of spiritual thought, because actually up until recently we couldn't really talk about this stuff. When the Western world began to modernize, if you like, about 200 years ago, we threw out, with the advent of science, we threw out a lot of spiritual practice that had up until then been very commonplace and still is in a lot of cultures. But in essence, we threw the baby out with the bathwater. So we then became really constrained to this narrow perception of reality. We threw a lot of this out. Unfortunately, because up until then, we had a profound belief in the devic realms of fairies, of angels, of pixies, of places that you shouldn't go, spirits that you shouldn't upset in the landscape. These were profound things, but we threw them all out with other sort of more superstitious practices and unhealthy things that we did need to lose, but we threw out these nuggets as well. So fortunately now we're starting to get those back in. And I say not all Western society is awesome, because it's still very prevalent in some societies. You know, in Iceland they still have, you know, the troll rocks that you mustn't move. In Ireland there's still particular, you know, fairy thoughts and piper's bushes and things that you don't go around, like hawthorn bushes on top of sacred sort of areas. So we didn't lose it all. And in Japanese and a lot of cultures actually, they have a practice every day, and it's not so much in Western society, but in other societies, they have a practice every day. If we get up in the morning, they light a candle or make an offering to the spirit of their house, the consciousness of their house, the spirit that it exists within the family, it exists in the house with the family. And they put a candle or an offering out to that spirit every morning to enhance the energies of their house. That's common practice. And if you start doing it, you'll find that the atmosphere in your house does change. You don't feel alone. Things don't go quite so wrong all the time. You know, and if you have any arguments or disagreements, you know, that energy is able to dissipate. You're able to deal with that conflict differently in a less aggressive manner, because you get that intuition and wisdom coming through to you subtly that says, actually, this is the way to deal with it, not to get all closed-minded and, you know, angry and lash out and stuff like that. So try welcoming your house spirit in. So I just turn my notes over so don't forget them. Try welcoming your house spirit in every morning and just start doing it and see what difference happens over a period of time. So when I talk about angelic beings and spirit realms, now every culture throughout the world has words for these things in their myths, in their legends, in their practices, in their superstitions. There's I think it's in South America, there's the old man of the ant mound who's supposed to be mischievous and you're supposed to doff your cap when you go past him. He's the spirit of these giant ant mounds, because if you don't, woe betide you, something will go wrong. So there's often a negative connotation of not engaging with these spirits and these realms. And so all stories have them, all cultures have these stories, these myths and legends about these things. But along came rational science, if you like, and said, no, your belief in these fairies, elves, pixies, angels, etc., your belief in those, they're all creations, it's all in the mind, they're all fanciful creations, and so therefore it places these things in your inner mind. It says they're in there. You know, they don't exist out there, they exist in here in your fanciful mind. They don't exist out there in the world. So then the result of that thinking that came along about 200 years ago was that if you started talking about pixies, elves, fairies, gnomes, angelic beings, whatever, sylphs of the air, you actually, you know, deemed to need psychiatric treatment, because you were obviously sort of having hallucinatory thoughts or you know, psychotic episodes and all those kind of things. So that's only a recent thing, because like I say, up until 200 years ago, these things were really accepted. It's where the tradition of our corn dollies come from, of putting the corn, keeping the corn. At the end of the year, we kept a sheaf of corn and we made it into a corn dolly, and we used to hang it over in our house and keep the spirit of corn safe within the corn dolly until we ploughed the ground again in the spring, because we never used to plough in the winter when things were done by hand. You know, it's all modern agriculture that does that. And then we would take the corn dolly, and in the first plough furrow going into the spring, we would throw in the corn dolly to put the spirit of corn back into the ground again, to bless it and ask for the corn dolly, the spirit of corn, to give us a new harvest, a good harvest. So, you know, with wassail trees, yes, it's in Imbolc, yes, it's to wake the trees up. And we do know that birdsong and human voice causes the tree to become awake, if you like, for things to start to happen. It's birdsong that wakes trees up out of their winter slumber, that makes leaves grow. We know that singing to plants, you know, increases yield and makes them more disease resistant, and they will grow better. So, but the singing to the trees was also to sing to the dryads in the trees. It was to engage them. I've started doing next door, to engage those levels of consciousness. So, and I think most of us, You probably could, Polly. Yeah. I think you'd have to work out what your spirit of your business needed to be. Yeah, sorry, answering Polly's question. Polly's asked what's the spirit of corn could represent modern life. You would need to define that, because you'd need, I spoke earlier about the consciousness of your business and the consciousness of your home, or I'll get the consciousness of your business anyway. So I think, yeah, I think most of us, most spiritual people, feel this deep connection to nature. And I think many of us have had a real sense of magical presence at times. We've all been to really special places where we feel that we're not alone. We've all been to sort of like fairy glens, or in caves, or sacred grottos, or deep woods, where we feel this presence, that there's something with us. So we intuitively pick up on it. It's just not something within modern society that we're very sure on how to interact with. And it's not that we're always looking for benefits. Don't get me wrong, we always say, well, how does it benefit me? It does benefit you by working with them, but it also benefits the wider world. It's not a selfish act. Actually, if you're looking to help other people, working with these levels of consciousness means that you have a much greater impact in what you're doing. So along with Polly's question, what are the practical benefits? Not just sitting there thinking, oh, fairies exist, isn't it lovely? What are the practical benefits for you of working with nature spirits and angelic beings? Actually, they're quite profound. I work with businesses along this level and clients, and they are really profound. So just to give you an example of some of like the smaller natural health businesses, I'm not going to give you client details, but put it this way. I've worked with things like herbalists and people who make flower remedies and things like that. I tend to work with higher end business entrepreneurs now, but so let's say they've got this business and they're growing and drying their own herbs, or they're making their own flower remedies. Now, when they tune in to the nature spirits involved with those flowers and those herbs, there is a profound practical difference in the quality of their products at the end and the benefits to their clients. And also, we'll get onto this in a minute. So there's a very real difference in the quality of the product that they create and its effect on the clients that they're working with. So it does make a profound practical difference. Their clients feel, I'm going to get that flower remedy from that person because intuitively feel it has made that much difference to them, and their reported benefits of those clients have been different than those who aren't engaging with these benefits in terms of, and that's health benefits, but also for the person who's working in that realm, the other benefit of tuning in not just to the nature consciousness, but also to the spirit of their business. I talked earlier on about the spirit of your home. Your business has a spirit as well. It has a soul, it has a spirit. So when you're working in business, you really need to become acquainted with the spirit of your business. You need to tune into it, because what it does is what happens when we tune into it, I'll get my words out in a minute, we slow down the frenetic pace that we tend to often work at, and we relax our need to control. So we don't feel like we've got to control everything. We feel that the spirit has its own entity, its own awareness, and we feel that we don't have to control everything, because there's another level of consciousness in there that's also co-creating that reality of that business. And then by slowing down and by releasing control, we become more receptive in our energy, and therefore we allow other opportunities to come to us. Other things start to happen within that business, and then we're able to perceive and understand our work and what we need to do in new ways to create those new opportunities, to create new initiatives, to work differently, which increases your clients, increases the flow of clients coming into your business. It increases their benefits of the service or the product that you're giving to them, and as a result, it increases your cash flow as well. So it's a win-win all round. And also that when you work with the spirit of your business, and particularly if you're working with nature consciousnesses within that business, the benefit is also for them. Because if you're working with them in a conscious way, your actual physical environment improves as well. So the fauna and flora and everything around you is much more healthy, it's much more abundant. And this is particularly prevalent if you work with the businesses I've worked with who are in agriculture and horticulture. So, you know, it does have a profound influence, for instance, on crop yields and the health of animals and calving rates and milk yields and all those kind of things, so that everybody is happier and healthier as a result of it. So I think the perception of why people have a lot of difficulty communicating on this level is that we as human beings, we live in a very dense, certain areas more dense than others, we live in a very dense, constrained body, if you are. I'm fortunate that my mind doesn't quite exist in my head the same way as many other people seem to do. But we live in quite a dense, constrained body. And we're very familiar with our five senses of taste, touch, smell, sight, hearing. So we're very good at perceiving this physical world that we're told is reality. But we're not so hot at dealing with our sensitivity to other realms. So our intuition and our knowing, our precognition, our clairvoyance, our clairaudience, extrasensory perception, empathy. We often have difficulty incorporating those senses into our everyday reality. I mean, again, there's a massive movement amongst spiritual women at the moment, the rise in what they call empaths. I mean, we're all empaths to a degree. We all have a degree of empathy, but it's about working out how you deal with that level of empathy that you've got. I mean, I'm going to do another live about this later, whereas, you know, empaths attract, you know, narcissists and all that kind of stuff. No, you don't attract them. You've got really poor boundaries, because empaths often do, which will be another live later down the line. Anyway, so what we have is because we're sort of constrained to our five senses, we have great difficulty often dealing with the less than physical senses, the other senses, the sensitive senses of the subtle realms, if you like. So how we work with that is the same as we work with our own subtle inner work, of our own self-work and our own stories and mindset and emotions and things that we've accumulated over our lifetime that has meant that we're functioning in the way that we are functioning. So working with these other realms, these devic realms, these nature spirits, angelic realms, it is the same. It has a subtle effect over our life that builds over time. As we ourselves work on ourselves, we can see ourselves changing over time and becoming different people. And when you work with the angelic realms, the same thing happened. We change over time, our life changes over time, and we see these big changes starting to occur. So it's not that talking to fairies is suddenly going to transform your life overnight. You can have real epiphany moments to go, oh my God, but you've still got to work with them and take that action. Life is all about having that inspired thought and then taking that inspired action to go along with it, that inspired intuition and inspired action. And what it does with working with these angelic and spiritual realms, it expands your whole experience and awareness of life. So it opens you up to things that you didn't even know were there, or were sort of subtly aware of, but didn't know how to tap into. Now, the reason I work with these realms of women, because so many women entrepreneurs, spiritual women entrepreneurs, are coming forward now wanting to help other people. But they do it all from we do it all from helping people in a human way, that as if we're the only ones that can help. And we are absolutely not. And it's great that women want to shine light for other people, but to engage, when you engage with these other realms, it brings a fantastic level of support for what you're doing. And as I say, it provides us with the inspiration often and wisdom that we so often seek. We're thinking, what do I need to do now? Oh, how am I going to get around this? Or, I've got this conflict, how should I deal with it? Actually using these other realms, these devic realms, and tuning into them and presenting them with the problem and saying, I need some help. And, you know, intuition and wisdom, and there are methods of tuning into these levels of consciousness. That means we can receive that information, that intuition, that wisdom in a way that we can understand and use practically. Means then that you can make big impacts in what you do and who you're delivering it to. You can make real changes and impacts in your life and in there. And it doesn't, working with fairies and angelic realms does not detach us from reality. There is sort of a perception that, oh, you're, you know, I recently wrote an article in Thrive Groden called Away with the Fairies, because that's what people often say, oh, you're not living in the real world. No, I'm not living in the narrow world prescribed by science. I'm living in the real world, which is much, much wider. So what working with these levels does is expands our awareness without losing our grounding in the here and now, because you don't want to be wandering around in a floaty white dress, walking across the fields going, oh, I'm in touch with the fairies, and trailing net curtains behind you with a billow out behind you with the breeze. But actually, you can't earn a living, you're not successful, you're going to be carted off to a lunatic asylum. You know, we have bills to pay, we have lives, we have families. It doesn't detract from any of that. It makes it so much better by working with these realms. It just massively increases your support bank, your knowledge. They can and do want to work with us. They and how, they're all very different in how they communicate or how they want to work with us. But there are definite steps that you can take, which are on my Sacred Feminine Living program, quick plug there, that you can tune in to those levels to just massively expand your awareness, massively expand the information that's available to you from these huge information fields that form the universe, and that you can use that in practical ways. You know, they can help you with your emotions, they can help you with your thoughts, they can help keep you really grounded and feeling safe. Because many of us, a lot of people go through life like bloody car crash victims, don't they? Bundling from one disaster to another, you know, and feeling so insecure and isolated, and oh my God, you know, I don't know how I'm going to cope with life, you know, and feeling so alone. And we're not alone. You know, when you tap into these realms, it is a wonderful place of love, creation, and, you know, everything is possible, and everything you can achieve. And once you start tapping into those, you realize, and it's these aligned steps. They're not like, there's no secret to suddenly changing your life. It's about working out what you need to do and taking those aligned steps. But if you do it with these consciousnesses, you're doing it, someone else is holding your hand, you're taking those steps together, and it makes a profound difference in what you can achieve and what you can do together. So there's me talking about sacred feminine energy, and I've got the sacred masculine going next door. Obviously I'm feeling very receptive and they keep coming in. So yeah, they're doing the drive next door. Right, so yeah, so I just come on to talk about that, really, to share it with everybody. So if anybody does want to learn more about my Sacred Feminine Living program, it is a 12-month coaching program, mentorship, working one-to-one with me, and I will be guiding you through, talking to your spirit of your house, your business, teaching you techniques to access all those realms we talk about, all those different consciousnesses, and methods to tap you into those consciousnesses. We also talk about working with the cycles of time, in terms of lunar time, solar time, the nature of time itself. Time isn't constant, so you can manage your time differently and better when you understand how times work, you know, bending time, stretching time. So there's many things that you can do. So yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about today anyway. And if people haven't downloaded my freebie on working with the moon, the cycles of the moon, that's a really basic thing to kind of start you off, to understand how impacted we are by our environment. The moon is a key component of the neurochemistry of our brain that makes us more productive and less productive at certain times of the month doing certain tasks. So you may as well do the things you're good at the right times, rather than trying to flog a dead horse doing the things you're not going to be good at the wrong time. So yeah, and I don't talk about the consciousness of the moon or the consciousness of the sun in that, but of course, yeah, we can go into planetary consciousnesses with the Romans embodied as gods, and we still carry the remnant of that in the days of the week, because the days of our week are named after planets. They're named after these planets for a reason. I'm not going to go into sacred geometry today and sacred geometry in time, which is music, but there are many, many things about sound, light, photons, your emotions, your DNA, and how your moods really do create your reality on a light, photon, DNA, energetic level. So all that's covered in the program, but today I just wanted to talk about, which is a fundamental part of tapping into all of this, is the main part, is working with nature spirits and angelic beings. So at the start, I set people a task of start welcoming in the spirit of your house every morning, light a candle, give it an offering, say hello. Thank you for looking after the house during the night while I slept and rested. Really appreciate it. Welcome in today. Help me get through the day, and any guidance or wisdom that you wish to impart, I'm ready to receive. And get ready to receive. Be open-minded and open-hearted and see what happens. Start practicing that in, and if anything happens, you know, put your comments below. And if you've not already joined my Divine Feminine CEO group, that is, there's a link on this page somewhere, or I'll put it below. So it's Divine Feminine CEOs, and that's going to be going really more into the nitty-gritty of sort of the marriage of science and magic and spirituality, and what happens in terms of, we're not going to go into the nitty-gritty of physics, but how reality is manifested from our mind and our emotions. So how you can manifest a reality, co-create your reality with the other consciousnesses that are in the universe. So we're going to be talking along those themes in that group. So if you've not already joined, get yourself over there, because that content won't be available on this page or on my profile. All right, then, I hope everybody's enjoyed that. I haven't looked through the comments. So yeah, so thanks everybody who's joined. And yeah, I'm going to go off and crack on with some client work now and have another cup of tea. I don't like to go cold, which is absolutely, I'll never forgive myself. Anyway, all right, I'll see you all soon then, and take care, and see you soon. Bye.